Before we get into the story, comment below where in the world you're watching from today. I'd love to know. And if you enjoy these kinds of stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, let's jump in. The ship came out of nowhere. One moment, the stars were still and quiet. The next, something huge was there, floating, moving, like a shadow had taken shape. It didn't make noise. It didn't light up. It just moved, like it belonged to space more than the stars did. In the control center of the Dominion Watchtower, nobody spoke. Eyes were wide, hands frozen over consoles as the black vessel crept closer on the screen. Commander Elric leaned forward. "What is that?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. The sensor tech didn't answer right away. His face had gone pale, his breathing shallow. No ID, no transponder, no thermal signature. It's just there. The screen flickered, and that's when they saw it. A long, dark shape, smooth and sharp like a knife. Its surface was so black that it seemed to drink in the light around it. It didn't look like a ship. It looked like a wound in space. Someone at the back finally muttered, "Is that Terran?" The room went silent. Nobody had said that word out loud in decades. Terran, human, the lost ones, the extinct ones, the ones the Dominion erased long ago. Elric stood slowly. That's impossible. But the ship didn't care what was impossible. It kept moving, closer and closer, not answering any calls, not slowing down, not showing any signs of fear. There were rules in space, ways things worked, ways ships behaved. This one broke all of them. It didn't announce itself. It didn't ask permission. It didn't stop. The final warning had been sent once, long ago, back when Earth still had clouds. But that warning was ignored. And now, the warship that had carried it was here. And it wasn't asking this time. Commander Elric had seen ships before. Thousands of them. Pirate vessels patched with scrap. Royal cruisers plated in gold. Even deep space scavenger hulks powered by dying suns. But this wasn't a ship. It was a message. As the black vessel crept closer, the Dominion's defense grid flickered to life, dozens of red triangles appearing on the holographic display. Yet nothing moved. No weapons charged. No systems locked. "Why aren't we targeting?" Elric barked, spinning toward the command deck. The weapons officer looked back at him, confusion painted across her face. "I tried, sir. The systems, they won't acknowledge it. The AI says there's nothing there. It's blind to it." Elric turned back to the main screen, eyes narrowing. Nothing there, still hovered outside the perimeter, getting closer with every second. "Override the AI," he growled. "I've already tried, 3 times." That was when fear finally crept in. Real fear. Not the kind that rattled a soldier before a skirmish, but the deep, heavy kind that pressed against the chest like a stone. The kind that made you think of final letters never written. In the back of the room, an old analyst whispered something under his breath. Elric turned. "What did you say?" The analyst looked up slowly. "I've seen this before. Not this ship, but the way it moves. The silence. The cold. It's from the old war. From Earth." A silence fell over the bridge. Even the hum of the consoles felt like it dimmed. "You mean the Terran conflict?" Elric asked. "That was 100 years ago. That war ended." The analyst didn't blink. "No, sir. It just went quiet." Suddenly, alarms blared. Red floodlights bathed the room in a warning glow. "Impact vector shifting," the sensor officer called out. "It's accelerating again, not toward the station, toward the planet, Direct course to Dominion Core. A second voice chimed in. Robotic. Emotionless. The station's defensive AI. Warning. Unidentified object approaching planetary zone. No matching records. No diplomatic clearance. No response on known frequencies. Probability of hostile intent? 97.4%. That was the moment the room broke. Orders barked over static. Officers scrambling between consoles. Messages sent to Surface Command. Civilian evacuation protocols triggered. But it was all too slow. The Dominion had ruled this corner of the galaxy for over 5 centuries. Its fleets patrolled hundreds of systems. Its weapons could reduce moons to dust. But nothing in their training, nothing in their manuals had prepared them for this. Elric didn't move. He stood frozen, watching the screen as the black ship vanished from orbit. "Where did it go?" he snapped. "Sir, it didn't jump. It's still in system, but it just slipped through our planetary shields like they weren't even there. Like they opened for it." Elric gritted his teeth. "Find out how. Patch me through to planetary defense. Now." On the surface below, chaos bloomed. Dominion Core, the seat of government, home to billions, was already beginning to panic. Traffic jammed the sky. People stared up through city domes, watching something they didn't understand blot out the stars. Deep within the Dominion Capitol Tower, Grand Minister Irel stood before a war table, surrounded by her senior commanders. "I want to know exactly what that is and who sent it," she snapped. General Marr shook his head. "Ma'am, the ship's not responding to any of our calls. It's not listed in any registry, and the AI refuses to recognize it as a threat." "I'm not asking the AI. I'm asking you." Marr took a breath. "Then I'll tell you what I think. It's human. Old human. From the Earth War. From before we poisoned their oceans and turned their sky to fire. That war was over." "We decided it was over," Marr said darkly. "We sent the final warning, told them to surrender or vanish. We gave them a choice, and they chose to vanish. We told ourselves they were gone. That's what history says." Irel stared at him. "Are you telling me the humans survived?" "I'm telling you something survived, and now it's returned." That was when the room's lights flickered. Not a power loss, an override. The Dominion's command systems, encrypted and sealed for generations, were being peeled back like soft fruit. One by one, the displays blinked off. A single screen remained, glowing faint blue. And then the voice came. It wasn't loud. It didn't yell, but it carried weight. Like it had traveled across time and space just to whisper directly into their ears. "You buried the truth. We buried the stars." A shiver ran down every spine in the room. The minister stepped back. "Shut it off." "We can't." "You erased our names from your history. Now we carve them into your skies." Then the message stopped. Silence returned. But it wasn't peace. It was pressure, weight. Like something terrible was building, just out of sight. General Marr looked up slowly. That wasn't a threat. That was a statement. Irel's voice trembled. "We have planetary shields. We have orbital weapons. Let's use them." "No," Marr said. "We don't. Not anymore. Every weapon system linked to Dominion Core's defense AI is offline. It's not just bypassing our tech. It's rewriting it." "What do you mean?" "I mean the Terran ship didn't just come to fight us. It came to infect us. That was when the third message came through. Not over the comms. Not through the screens. It came through the implants. Every Dominion citizen felt it like a whisper behind their eyes. The final warning was ignored. The warship wasn't. And for the first time in 5 centuries, Dominion Corps prepared for war, not against pirates or rebels or distant empires, but against the ghosts they thought had died out with the burning of Earth. But the ghosts had returned, and they weren't alone. The storm began without sound. High above Dominion Corps, the clouds didn't swirl or gather. They split, like something beneath them had pushed upward, carving a path through the sky. The capital city's defense grid shimmered for a moment, confused, unsure whether to sound the alarm or shut itself down entirely. It chose the latter. People stopped walking. Hovercraft froze in the air. Families on balconies, officers in towers, engineers deep in tunnel networks, all looked up as the first shadow fell across the silver spires. It wasn't just the size of the ship that stole the breath from their lungs. It was the shape. Sharp, unnatural, shaped like nothing they had seen before. It didn't glide or hover. It hung there, like gravity itself, bent to keep it aloft. The air grew still, not calm, but waiting. Everything waited. Then it began. From the ship's underside, a single drop pod was released. No announcement, no ceremony, just a silent black spear hurtling down through the clouds. Inside the command center, Minister Errol watched the feed with bloodless cheeks. "What is that?" "Unknown," one of her aides said, fingers trembling over his datapad. "It's not broadcasting any signal. It's descending fast, straight toward the upper district." Another voice, panicked. "It's not triggering the kinetic barriers. It's bypassing our defenses like they're not even there." "How is that possible?" Irel snapped. General Marr stepped forward, jaw clenched. "It's not fighting the systems. It's being let through." Irel turned to him. "Explain." He didn't blink. The AI doesn't recognize it as a threat. It's not tagged, not classified. It's invisible to our protocols. "Then reclassify it." It's too late. Outside, the drop pod hit the ground with a soundless impact. Not an explosion, not a crash. Just a deep, low pulse, like a heartbeat echoing through the steel streets. The shock wave rippled outward in perfect silence, but every light flickered. Every implant buzzed. Every system hiccuped. The pod hissed open. What stepped out was not a man, not a machine. Something between both. It stood tall, taller than any Dominion soldier. Its armor was blackened, scorched with heat lines and claw marks. Ancient, repaired, rebuilt. Not clean, not ceremonial, functional. A warrior shaped by survival, not design. On its chest, 2 letters burned faint white through the soot. SV. The crowd didn't scream, not at first. Most people just stood there, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. A child clutched her father's sleeve. A merchant dropped his satchel. An officer tried to speak into his comm, but his words died in his throat. Then the Terran warform moved. Not fast, just forward. Each step deliberate, like it knew exactly where it was going. The Dominion guards posted nearby didn't wait for orders. They opened fire. Plasma rounds lit the street in blinding bursts. Beams cut through air and slammed into armor. But nothing stopped it. The Terran walked through the fire like it wasn't even there. Sparks danced off its shoulders. Smoke curled from its back. But it didn't falter, didn't flinch. It raised one arm, not to defend itself, but to point, straight at the Capitol spire. And then it answered. Its voice wasn't loud. It came through every speaker, every ear implant, every neural relay. Calm, flat, inevitable. You burned our skies. We remember. Now you will. With a flash, the warform leapt forward. It moved like time itself slowed around it. One moment, it stood still. The next, it was among the guards. Screams echoed across the avenue. Armor crumpled, weapons shattered. Dominion soldiers, elite, trained since birth, fell like paper under steel. Atop the Capitol spire, Iryl watched in horror. "Get reinforcements there now," she screamed. "Call the Iron Phalanx, every mech unit, all reserve squadrons." "They're already moving, ma'am," her aide said, voice shaking. "And our off-world garrisons?" No response. Long-range comms are offline. "What do you mean offline?" "They've been hijacked." General Marr's eyes widened. "The ship." "Activate the neural override," Irel shouted. "We can cut through the block with—" "We can't," the aide said. "Ma'am, it's not just a block. It's rewriting the command net." That was when the second ship arrived. Not like the first one. This one didn't descend. It just appeared. A tear opened in the sky. Not a warp gate, not any known jump signature. Just a scar in space. And through it, the second vessel drifted. Slow, massive, and ugly. Where the first ship was sleek and sharp, this one looked broken, welded, repaired by desperate hands in dark places. Its hull was covered in markings, names, symbols, scores carved into the metal like grave tallies. The Dominion's orbital scans went haywire. Mass readings didn't match size. Radiation leaked from invisible systems. No identifiable engines, no AI interface. One of the officers said it out loud. "That's not a ship. It's a coffin." No one laughed. On the ground, the Terran warform reached the Capitol gates. A wall of Dominion guards waited, backed by assault walkers and turret drones. The warform stopped. A single voice called out, "This is your final warning. Stand down." The warform didn't answer. It ran. Metal thundered. The first turret fired, and the warform ducked low, slipped beneath the blast, and tore into the line like a blade through silk. Walkers toppled. Men screamed. Sparks flew as power cores ruptured. The Dominion defense line lasted less than 60 seconds. Inside the tower, Irel watched the feed cut to static. "Where is it now?" she asked. The aide stared at the map. "Coming here." "Here?" "It's climbing the spire." "How?" "On foot." It didn't use lifts. It didn't need clearance. It didn't search for access points or weak spots in the security web. The Terran warform climbed. Hand over hand, it dug into the outer shell of the Capitol spire like a predator ascending a nest. The armored tips of its fingers sank into neutron-forged plating like it was foam. Sparks scattered beneath its grip. Surveillance cameras tracked it shakily as it moved, calm, methodical, unrelenting. Inside the tower, alarms screamed from every floor. Evacuation orders were issued, then rescinded, then overwritten. The building's AI stammered across public comms, trying to speak but constantly glitching midward. Systems were failing. Emergency backups refused to engage, as if the tower itself had become unsure of its loyalty. Minister Irel stood rigid in the heart of the upper chamber, her eyes locked on the security feed as the war form crested the outer balcony 20 floors below her. "How many guards do we have left inside the tower?" she demanded. General Marr didn't answer immediately. When he did, his voice was low. 4 squads. That's all who made it past the lower breach." Irel's voice sharpened. 4 squads? That's less than a platoon. "They fought. Hard," Marr said. "But it wasn't enough." She turned toward him, fury lighting her eyes. "It's 1 soldier." Marr's jaw flexed. "Not anymore." The room fell silent for a moment. Then a new noise began to rise, a sound not made by weapons or machines. It was deep and constant. A hum, low at first, like the thrum of a sleeping storm, then louder, then everywhere. The lights flickered again, and then the message came. It didn't speak through official channels. It bypassed those. It spoke straight into the minds of everyone still linked to the Dominion net. Officers, civilians, children. A voice, old and full of ash, echoed inside their skulls. Calm, measured, final. "We offered silence. You called it surrender." The chamber dimmed. All displays switched to black. "We gave you time. You called it weakness." One of the aides collapsed, clutching his temples. Another backed into the wall, trembling. "We gave a warning. You buried it. And now," on every screen, every implant, every neural link, "The warship has come." The feed changed. No longer just voice. Now, images. Historical records Dominion historians had purged. Footage long deleted, now resurrected. They saw it. Earth's skies torn open by orbital fire. Oceans boiling. Great cities sinking into flame and ash. Civilians scrambling beneath falling towers. Children screaming under mushroom clouds of radiation. Then they saw the face of the Dominion admiral who had ordered the bombardment. They saw the ministers who signed the command. They saw their own banners waving over burning continents. One clip showed a girl, maybe 5 years old, running through smoke, coughing, skin blistered. A Dominion soldier raised a weapon. She stopped and raised her arms. The screen cut to black before the shot fired. Irel staggered back, gripping the side of the command table. "Shut it down. Shut it all down." "It's not us," Marr said. "This is deeper than a transmission. It's embedded." "What does that mean?" "It means they planned this. Years ago. Maybe decades. They didn't just come back with weapons. They came back with proof." Outside, the war form entered through the balcony, dragging one of the outer guards behind it like a rag doll. It didn't speak. It didn't threaten. It simply advanced. A pair of guards opened fire. The blasts hit, but the war form moved through them like mist. Its armor sparked, but no dent, no stagger. It was walking justice, forged in the hatred of silence. One guard charged with a kinetic lance, screaming. The war form ducked, grabbed his wrist, and with a sickening crack, bent the arm backward until the weapon dropped. Then a punch. Short, clean. The guard flew back into the wall, unmoving. The last guard didn't raise his weapon. He stared, The war form stared back and then passed him by. I don't think it wants to kill everyone, the aide whispered. No, Mar said slowly, just the ones responsible. Floor after floor, the war form climbed. Inside the command chamber, one of the central processors began to overheat. Sparks flew, steam hissed. A console screen blinked and changed again, no longer showing Earth, but something else. Blueprints, maps, codes. The Terrans weren't just here for revenge, they were taking back data. Minister, Mar said, this isn't just a strike. She turned toward him, wide-eyed. It's a reclamation. They want what was stolen. Records, research, proof, names. They're not here to win a war. They're here to change the story. Irel clenched her fists. Over my dead body. And then, as if summoned by her words, the doors to the chamber exploded inward. Smoke rushed in first, then sparks, then silence. The Terran warform stepped through the breach. 9 feet of scorched armor, white letters glowing across its chest, a rifle in one hand, a blade folded on the other. The chamber guards raised their weapons, but one look from the general made them pause. The warform spoke, and this time not into implants. It spoke into the air, into the room. Minister Irel of Dominion Corps, you stood on the bridge that day. You counted the dead like data. I was one of them. Irel swallowed. I didn't know. I was a junior officer. I followed orders. The war form tilted its head. So did we. It raised its weapon. Mar stepped forward. Wait. The war form paused, only slightly. Mar held up a hand. If you're here to change history, killing her makes her a martyr. But making her watch it burn, that makes her remember. The war form didn't move, and then it lowered the rifle. Then she watches. It stepped forward, past Irel, toward the main console. With a flick of its wrist, it deployed a spike into the table's core. The lights dimmed. The command system shivered. Across Dominion Core, every screen lit up again. This time with a symbol. A circle. Blue and white. An old flag. Earth. The symbol pulsed. Not animated. Not loud. Just a simple glow. Blue and white, soft against the ruined control chamber's red emergency lights. It rotated slowly, like it was breathing. Earth. For many in the Dominion, it was the name of a grave. For others, it was a footnote in old military briefings. But for the younger ones, it meant nothing. A myth. A shadow. Something their teachers barely mentioned beyond the Terran resistance was crushed before peace. Now it wasn't a footnote. It was a warning. The flag hovered in the air for a long moment, as if daring someone to blink first. Then the screen shifted again, automatically, irresistibly. Across Dominion Core, every display did the same. From palace halls to public terminals to the smallest flickering wrist implant. All of them. This time, it wasn't footage of war. It was testimony. A quiet voice filled every speaker. An old voice. Weathered, human, and calm. To the children of the Dominion, you were told we died, that Earth fell, that we burned in our pride, that we were monsters. The video feed flickered. Faces filled the screen. Men, women, children, bruised, starving, afraid that we deserved it. Footage of black rain falling over skeletal cities. Entire oceans turned red with rust. Hospitals burning. Drones executing civilians in city squares. But the truth is simple. You erased us because you feared what we remembered. Then, a sound no one expected. Laughter, not cruel or triumphant, just a child laughing. The camera panned to a little boy wrapped in a Terran flag, sitting on rubble, holding a wooden toy ship. He made rocket sounds, oblivious to the smoke behind him. The voice returned. We raised our children in exile, in dust, in broken places between stars, but we raised them free. And now, they come not for your thrones, but your lies. The transmission didn't ask for help. It didn't threaten further attack. It only ended with a single line. We are not your enemy. We are your history. And then the symbol returned, pulsing one more time before fading to black. Inside the Capitol spire, Minister Irel could only stare. Her mouth hung slightly open, breath shallow, thoughts spiraling out of her control. Everything she had built, her speeches, her rule, her legacy, was unraveling in front of her. And it wasn't bombs or armies that undid it. It was truth. Around her, aides whispered. Some stared at the floor. A few looked up at the war form still standing near the central console. Its presence felt like gravity, heavy, silent, watching. I want that feed shut down, Irel said finally, her voice hoarse. Now. No one moved. She turned. Now. General Marr didn't even look at her. He was watching the feed replay on his own wrist screen, his jaw clenched. He didn't blink. Irel stormed toward him. General! They showed my sister, he said quietly. That little girl. In the ruins. That was her. Irel froze. That could be anyone. You don't know that. I do, he said. I remember her scarf. Red. My mother made it by hand. He finally looked at her. She died on Juno Ridge. You told us it was a rebel bombing. Irel's face tightened. It was. No, he said. It wasn't. She stepped back. Marr looked around the room at the others. Officers, aides, techs, all still glued to their screens. How many more have faces in those feeds? He asked. How many more lies were carved into plaques and statues, while their truth was buried under glass? He turned back to the war form. You knew exactly what to show. The Terran didn't answer. It didn't have to. Outside the spire, Dominion Corps was already shaking. City streets once filled with order were now chaos. Crowds gathered beneath the giant public screens, replaying the transmission. People shouted, cried, fell to their knees. Some threw off their uniforms. Some attacked the marble statues of ministers, toppling them like dead idols. At first, the Dominion tried to censor it. They shut down central broadcast towers, but the message kept playing. They cut power grids, but the message ran through backup systems. They wiped servers, but the message rewrote them. Because the Terrans hadn't sent a transmission. They had planted a seed. One whisper turned into 10, then 100, then a movement. People didn't scream for revenge. They demanded records, truth, accountability. They demanded to know how long they had been fed a story soaked in ash and blood. In the inner colonies, military officers hesitated before firing on crowds. Some refused orders. Some vanished, armor left in alleyways like empty shells. In the outer systems, entire patrol fleets stopped responding. They didn't defect. They just went dark. As if they, too, needed to think. On fringe planets like Halros and Midari's Reach, where old rebel blood still ran through the soil, the message hit harder. A group of former separatists pulled down the Dominion's planetary flag, hoisting instead a symbol no one had seen in 100 years, an Earth circle, hand-painted, fluttering above the ruins. And across the stars, the old phrase returned. 4 words, spoken softly, burned deeply. Earth was never gone. Back in the tower, the war form moved. Its boots echoed against the floor as it turned away from Irel and walked to the chamber's edge. Glass walls gave way to a full view of the capital. Fires dotted the skyline. Smoke rose from statues, not from war, but from revelation. You wanted a war, Irel said weakly behind it. But this is collapse. The war form didn't turn. No, it said. This is memory. Irel's knees gave out, and she sat hard on the marble floor, staring at the feed still playing in the corner of the room. Her voice trembled. What happens now? The war form didn't answer, because far above them, orbit shifted. The second Terran ship, the coffin-shaped juggernaut, had begun to move again. And it wasn't alone. Dozens of small shapes broke formation from its sides. Not ships, not bombs. Pods. Thousands of them. Falling. The sky bled fire. Pods rained down across Dominion core like meteors. Thousands of them. Small, coffin-shaped, each one streaking through the atmosphere with no sound but the whisper of heat and speed. They came in waves, first a few dozen, then hundreds, then more than anyone could count. They weren't targeting cities. They weren't destroying buildings. They were landing. Panic rolled through the streets. Civilians scrambled into shelters. Defense batteries tried to reboot, but nothing responded. No turrets turned. No drones lifted. The pods passed through every defense net like the world itself had invited them. When they hit the ground, they didn't explode. They opened. From the first pod, a figure stepped out. Human, tall, wrapped in black armor stitched with scars and strange symbols. Not Dominion symbols. Not Terran military ones either. These were personal, etched by hand, made with grief and memory. Then more figures emerged. Dozens, then hundreds. Every pod released a survivor. Soldiers, yes, but not regular ones. They were Terran but changed. Not a uniform among them matched. Some wore armor built from salvage. Others carried weapons older than most planets in the system. Many moved like ghosts, silent, coordinated, purposeful. And they did not fire unless fired upon. They moved through the cities like a tide, but a controlled one. Their targets were not civilians, not children, not homes. They struck communications hubs, propaganda centers, weapon depots, intelligence offices. Any place that had helped build the Dominion's version of history, they tore it down. Inside the Capitol spire, Irel stared at the feed, eyes wide. Why aren't they attacking the people? She whispered. Why aren't they taking over? The war form stood silent, watching. "They're here," Mars said from behind her, "to remind us, not rule us." The Terran survivors were many things: fierce, ruthless, determined, but they were not conquerors. They weren't here to plant a new flag. They were here to rip down the old ones. Across the stars, the message spread faster than the ships. Pirate relays, dead satellites, old rebel networks long thought erased. Each of them flickered to life. Each of them broadcast one thing: "We are not here for your crowns. We are here for your memory, and we will not let you forget." On colony worlds, Dominion officers abandoned their posts. Some tried to flee. Others stood down, ordering their troops to let the Terrans pass. There were no negotiations, no truces, just silence and surrender. One by one, systems darkened. Not from conquest, but from collapse. Because this wasn't a war of fleets anymore. It was a war of truth. In the throne room of the Spire, the final broadcast began. Cameras activated autonomously from every angle. Across the galaxy, people watched. Minister Errol stood in the center, bound. On either side, 2 Terran soldiers. And before her, 1 chair. Not a throne, just a steel chair. Rough, burned, sharp-edged. She was pushed into it. The war form stood behind her, one hand resting on her shoulder like a final judgment. In front of her, the same flag that had first appeared above the city glowed in the air, blue and white, Earth's insignia. And then the last message played. "To the peoples of the galaxy, this is not justice. This is not vengeance. This is memory." The feed split into 4. Top left, Earth, scorched in fire. Top right, the Capitol spire, collapsing in smoke. Bottom left, a Terran soldier helping a Dominion child out of rubble. Bottom right, the face of Minister Errol, pale, trembling, eyes wide. This is what happens when you erase a people and call it peace. The war form stepped into view. For the first time, it removed its helmet, a human face. Old, scarred, hardened, but calm. He looked straight into the camera. "We are not shadows. We are not myths. We are not the past. We are the cost of forgetting." Then the feed cut to black. Only a final image remained: a star field, the Earth flag, and a line of text glowing beneath it. Never again. Weeks passed. Dominion Core did not burn. It did not fall under occupation. It did not vanish. It changed. The statues were gone. The flags torn down. The propaganda centers demolished. The history books rewritten, not by the Terrans, but by the citizens themselves. In place of the old archives, a new one was built. At its entrance, carved into stone, stood a quote: "We remember Earth, because forgetting it nearly destroyed us." The Terran ships? Gone. As suddenly as they had arrived. No demands. No colonies claimed. No governments installed. Only silence remained, and memory. Far beyond the rim, in the void between stars, the SV Vengeance drifted. Its lights were dim. Its crew spoke little. Their mission was done. Not complete, but done. For now. In its command chamber, the war form sat at a console, watching a small screen. Footage played again, an old recording from Earth, children laughing, running through a field of wildflowers before the skies turned black. He leaned back, closed his eyes, and whispered the last words of his people. "We were forgotten, but we will never forget." Then the screen blinked off, and the stars welcomed them home